Thank you very much for joining this Connect for Children webinar. This is the first of two webinars. Today we're going to give an overview of the Connect for Children network and then talk about one of our services, the trial services, together with some of our supporting work in education and training. In the next webinar, we'll talk about expert services, including the voices of children and young people and work on data standards. Connect for Children is a network that includes sites, investigators, experts, national hubs, and children and young people. And our basis is that we need good infrastructure to do good research. Unfortunately, the clinical trial infrastructure across Europe remains fragmented and is not sufficiently developed, and this is particularly true in paediatrics. The rare disease community has done a lot of work through the European Joint Programme for Rare Diseases and will continue to work through ERDIRA and ERICA and other projects. But these projects don't completely fill the gap for research infrastructure, particularly paediatric research infrastructure. On the other hand, c4c does that, and we want to make c4c available to people working in rare disease research to speed up the development of medicines and devices. We started as a public-private partnership between academia and pharma, and this was an innovative medicines initiative project that included 10 large originator companies and multiple academic partners who together worked out what the gaps are in paediatric research infrastructure and then filled those gaps. We work across 20 countries, as shown here, using the paediatric research infrastructures that's found in each country. And we work with children and young people, we work with a large number of experts, the 20 national hubs, and a large number of clinical trial sites. And these groups come together to provide efficient services that will speed up your trials, both academic trials funded by grants and industry trials. When we look for expert advice, we can do that much more quickly than industry does it. We can find sites quickly, and then we can do protocol-driven site feasibility quickly within a confidentiality disclosure agreement. So someone makes a request, an academic or industry, and that comes to our single point of contact. We then pass that request on to the relevant service, paediatric patient and public involvement, or expert advice, or site identification and feasibility, or ongoing trial support. And this work is supported by education and training and paediatric data standards. All of these are now hosted by a non-profit that grew out of the Innovative Health Initiative public-private partnership. This non-profit, Connect for Children Stichting, is based in the Netherlands and will provide all these services on the basis of membership fees for industry, grants with academia, or fees for service for industry. We're ready for work, and we look forward to working with you. Today, we're going to talk about the topics in yellow, education and training, but first, site identification and feasibility with ongoing trial support. The other topics and services will be covered in the next webinar. So thank you for joining, and I'll pass you over to Chloe Bickerstaff, who's going to talk about our trial services. Thank you very much.
Okay, hi everybody. So my name is Chloe Bickerstaff. I'm the c4c Portfolio Manager and Trial Services Lead. And today I'm going to talk to you about the trial services that c4c has to offer and how we can work together with ERNs. So what are the main benefits of working with c4c? So firstly, the access to national networks, their expertise and the knowledge of their sites. So this enables c4c to perform comprehensive site identification. And as a result of that, we are able to increase the number of sites and high quality sites for feasibility. Additionally, there is access to our streamlined processes, which we have in place across the network to improve efficiency and consistency across countries as demonstrated by the CDA cascade. And with the network infrastructure and processes that we have in place, we're able to complete these activities within fast and efficient timelines. So as part of the C4C network are the C4C national hubs. There are 20 national hubs across 21 EU countries, and the national hubs are usually academic-based institutions, but they have strong links to the national paediatric research and clinical communities within that country. So the national hubs are key pillars in our service provision and delivery. And currently we have 224 approved C4C sites in our site database, and those are available for site identification, feasibility, and to take part in trials. Importantly, where is the overlap between C4C sites and ERN sites? So this information was put together by my colleague Ava, and along the x-axis is the country, and along the y-axis is the ERN. And Ava looked at a list of all the C4C sites and all the sites in the ERNs, and then by country worked out how many were the same and how much overlap there was. So green equals C4C, and ERNs have the same sites, and red means that C4C and ERNs have none of the same sites. And the grey just means that we don't currently have that data available. And what this shows is that in some countries there is a lot of overlap, but in some countries there is a lot less overlap, and there is an opportunity for us to work together. So how can C4C and ERN work together on trial services? So firstly, for academic studies, we can do a small amount of work during the grant application stage and before the grant funding is awarded. But if C4C is written into the grant application and it is then subsequently awarded, then we can do much more detailed feasibility work. And with industry studies, C4C will recommend to sponsors or CROs who approach us to work with ERNs and registries, and then we as the C4C network can provide services and support, and vice versa. So now just a brief overview of the C4C portfolio and what studies we currently have on the portfolio. So we currently have 3 academic studies and 9 industry studies in several different disease areas. And these are studies which we have adopted onto the portfolio and for which we have supported through one or more of our trial services. And looking at the disease areas in a bit more detail, you can see that we have supported several rare disease studies, and actually we have supported more rare disease studies than we have the common diseases. So as well as having experience working in rare disease studies, we also have experience of working with ERNs. So for this particular study on our portfolio, it was a study in chronic kidney disease. And although the initial site identification was done through ERCnet and the ESCAPE network, additional sites were needed by the sponsor. So C4C undertook this activity with our national hubs, and in the final site list, half were identified through the ESCAPE network, but half were identified through C4C. So then the C4C sites which undertook C4C feasibility processes, and the ESCAPE sites were managed by the sponsor. So this is just an example of how C4C has worked alongside an ERN previously. Okay, so next I'll give an overview of the trial services and what we offer in C4C. But firstly, I just wanted to explain some terms and terminology that we do use in C4C. So the national hubs are crucial to our service delivery. They coordinate all the trial-related activity within their individual countries. The Network Infrastructure Office, that coordinates all of the activity across the C4C network, and the portfolio team, which I oversee, sits within the Network Infrastructure Office. And SPOC is the single point of contact, and that coordinates all queries, requests, and communications to the national hubs. It's managed by the portfolio team in NIO. So this is our current trial services. We have the trial preparedness, which is actually a pre-feasibility service that usually involves country outreach to assess if a trial is feasible in that country. We have our site identification service, where national hubs identify and propose sites for a trial and are also able to comment on their suitability. We have the protocol-specific feasibility service, where national hubs liaise with sites and investigators to complete the feasibility questionnaire. We have our exploratory services and then our study support services, and that includes trial setup and trial execution. And all of our services are underpinned by quality and quality management. So we also have a CDA cascade, which we will put in place prior to trial services or activity starting. And this is a very efficient process. It's one which is highly valued by sponsors. Essentially, it is a three-step cascade. So the first CDA is between C4C and the sponsor. The second one is between C4C and the national hubs. And the third one is between the national hubs and the sites. And what it means is that the sponsor only needs to complete one CDA and one signature with C4C, and then we can subsequently put in place all the CDAs with all of the countries and sites that are required for that study. And we coordinate all of this activity through SPOC, and we ensure that the CDAs are completed within the timelines. So our site identification service is undertaken by discussing with sponsors and trial teams what their requirements are for that study. We produce a download from our site database of potential sites that fulfill those requirements. And then we ask each national hub who is involved to review and input the site list. And the output of this is that we have a list of potential participating sites for the sponsor to consider for feasibility. And the benefits of the site identification service is the access it provides to the national hubs and potential sites, access to national hubs' knowledge and experience, and therefore resulting in an increased number of sites for the sponsor to review and consider for feasibility. And we're also able to do that within efficient timelines. Our protocol-specific feasibility service is where we work with sponsor trial teams to put together the feasibility questionnaire onto the c4c template, and then the national hubs will liaise with investigators and sites selected for feasibility to complete the questionnaire. Importantly, the national hubs will do a quality check of the responses before then we send it back to the sponsor. The benefits of the protocol-specific feasibility service is that national hubs have the ability to ensure accurate, high-quality completed feasibility questionnaires that really benefit from the national hub review and input, meaning that the right sites are put forward for site selection by the sponsor, and hopefully decreases the number of sites which open to a study but maybe don't recruit. So SPOC I have mentioned previously, but this is our single point of contact, and it's managed by the portfolio team. And essentially it just allows for streamlined communication and dissemination of information from sponsors to C4C and to national hubs and then sites. Any service requests are coordinated and sent through SPOC to national hubs, and then that allows us as NIO to monitor, collate and analyse national hub responses and information, just to ensure that we do have that high quality service delivery. The benefits of SPOC is that it avoids sponsors having to send information or requests multiple times to several countries. It facilitates us delivering our services quickly and efficiently, and it allows us to do that within the defined timelines that we have agreed with the sponsor. So through this, we are able to build the trust and engagement with sponsors and national hubs that we work with. So I've talked a bit about the trial services and what C4C has to offer, but I also wanted to just highlight how the national hubs have been delivering these services in practice. And I just wanted to talk through a couple of case studies. So firstly, in this first case study, which involved the national hub from Denmark, the problem identified was that the sponsor had a delay in terms of protocol submission, final protocol submission. And that had actually resulted in some of the confirmed sites not able to take part anymore, and therefore they were looking for some replacement sites. The national hub was able to respond very quickly to this and identify an additional site to take part in the study. There was a very tight deadline to have that site confirmed, just due to the study team submitting to the EU CTR and CTES. The National Hub worked collaboratively with the local team. They facilitated the CDA signature, and they arranged for the feasibility questionnaire to be completed through meeting with the local team, the National Hub, and the investigator. And the outcome of that was that the timelines were met, which were very short timelines. The site was confirmed and able to be included in the study. In the second case study from the Italian National Hub, so the problem identified was that a site had been put forward by the National Hub, but initially it was put on hold by the sponsor just due to some previous experience and difficulties with getting contracts signed. National Hub was able to support, meet with the local team, explain about the restructure at site, and just provide some reassurance that those contract timelines could be met and that the National Hub will be able to support with this. The outcome of this is that the site was confirmed and then selected for the study. In this third case study from our National Hub in Spain, so the problem identified was that the study was actually experiencing a higher than expected screen failure rate, so they wanted to open additional sites to meet their recruitment target. The National Hub was able to review the sites within its network, it discussed the study with investigators, and it proposed 11 additional sites, 4 of which completed the protocol-specific feasibility and have then been selected to open for the study. The outcome here is that additional sites are able to open for recruitment, help to achieve the study recruitment target within the timelines. And lastly, so a case study from our National Hub in Greece, where there was 2 problems from 2 different studies. So the first one was supporting recruitment in a rare disease population, and the second one was where the sponsor was a little less experienced with sites in that country. So in terms of the National Hub support, so the National Hub had identified a site that could take part in the study with the rare disease population, and they did have 2 suitable patients, but the PI was due to retire. But through the good relationship that the National Hub had with the investigator, they were able to refer those patients from the C4c site to a sponsor active site, and they were able to be included in the study. And in terms of supporting with the less experienced sponsor of the sites, the National Hub had a very good understanding and knowledge of the sites. They were able to contact potentially 5 PIs and 5 sites, and they were interested in joining the study. So the outcome here is that there's an increased inclusion of patients and sites which would not have been included without the C4c National Hub involvement. So what do sponsors value from working with National Hub? So this is the feedback that we have received from sponsored trial teams that we have collaborated on with studies in our portfolio, and what they have found positive from working with the C4c network and the National Hubs. And the main points to highlight is that sponsors value the National Hub experience and knowledge, their ability to input into any issues or problems, and the access they have to connected network of sites and investigators. But all in all, it was the C4c network itself which provided the added value, and National Hubs were able to influence timelines and therefore make the process of site identification and feasibility a lot more efficient and quicker than without C4c, which is one of the main objectives of the C4c network. And as we progress with the portfolio and growing the portfolio, we continue to receive positive feedback from sponsors and individual trial teams on our National Hubs and our services, including site identification, CDAs, and feasibility. And it's really important for us to get this type of feedback as we look to grow the portfolio more. And so we continue to work collaboratively with trial teams, being flexible and transparent to achieve these high quality results and service delivery that meets all of the sponsors' expectations. And we know to achieve this high quality service, there are certain requirements that we do need to fulfill. So we must be consistent in our service delivery, respond in a quick and efficient manner, deliver on our promises and timelines, and be proactive and positive in our approach. And really our National Hubs are key to this. So there is no setup required. The National Hub expertise is immediately available. They have the pathways, processes, and past experience, and they are able to utilize it. So lastly, I just wanted to end on the value of the C4c network. And the network brings together expertise, knowledge, experience, and access with clear communication channels, and that results in high quality service delivery. And ultimately, this can potentially impact on study timelines, setting up trials faster with the right sites, and achieving recruitment targets quicker. So thank you very much, and look forward to working with you further.
Hi everyone, my name is Francesca Rocchi. I work in Bambino Gesù Children Hospital in Rome, and I am one of the C4C work package leader for training and education. And here with my colleague Becca Leary, we are going to introduce you to the training and education service developed by C4C. So how is the C4C Academy structure? First of all, we have developed a virtual learning environment, the C4C Academy platform, where all the C4C courses are hosted. We can say that the C4C courses represent a kind of unique integrated educational program that is composed by several courses developed for different professional roles and that address best practice in pediatric clinical trial and pediatric drug development. These courses have been developed thanks to the contribution of many teachers from across the entire C4C network, including also the C4C experts. Each course developed has been agreed by our educational board, which provides a guarantee of quality as well. We have also created an academic secretariat service, and its role is to disseminate course information to the entire C4C network of the national hubs and their related clinical site, and also to manage the enrollment of the students, the learners into the courses. An important tool that we have created is the C4C external catalog, which is a database containing external courses to C4C about pediatric clinical trial and disease-specific training. The C4C Academy platform has been developed using Moodle, and it is very easy to use for both the student and the teachers or the administrators. Once you have created your own profile, you can enroll in any course, watch the video lectures, take self-assessment quizzes, and you can customize the interface with a number of useful tools. The platform also provides space for asynchronous online debates and interaction between students and teachers. As mentioned, we have created a very simple but also secure and controlled system for course enrollment managed by the C4C Academic Secretariat. This is done by means of a password for enrollment in a specific course, which is issued directly to the student via the relevant national app. And now let's go to the educational offer that C4C has developed. Let's start with the courses related to the good clinical practice. So the most important pillars you should know when involved in a clinical trial. We have created the so-called basic pediatric GCP course and the refresher GCP course, which address the core element of the GCP, including issue very specific to pediatric clinical trials. Those two courses are always open and available on the platform, and there is no limit for number of participants. And also these courses have been recognized by Transcelerate. Then we have what we call competent development in GCP courses. Each of these courses focuses on a specific aspect of the GCP. For example, we have course on audit and inspection readiness, on essential document, on ethics committee evaluation, monitoring pediatric trials, obtaining informed consent and assent, the role of research nurse, safety and reporting data, and trials startup. Compared to the basic GCP course, these courses require a high level of student-teachers interaction, and that's why we open these courses with a specific timeline, and they are open to a limited number of students. And then now let's talk about the advanced course on pediatric clinical trial and pediatric drug development, a course we can say we are very proud of. We have developed this advanced course to educate healthcare professionals involved in clinical trial about the scientific, methodological, and practical issues involved in the design, conduct, analysis, management, and reporting of clinical trials conducted in the pediatric population. This course, available entirely online, is composed by 8 modules. Each of them includes several recorded lessons with discussion forum, webinars, and teamwork, and the total duration of the course is approximately of 8 months. The course is associated with the highest Bloom's level, and it has been accredited by CPD. So far, we have developed 3 different editions, and now we are in the phase of revising and updating the course, and we are going to include a module also on rare disease and orphan drugs. In the next slide, you can see the list of the modules of the advanced course. We have Introduction to Pediatric Drug Development, Developmental Pharmacology, Regulatory and Ethical Aspect regarding Pediatric Medicine Research and Development, Pediatric Clinical Trial from Design to Implementation, IMP Management in Clinical Trial and Pediatric Drug Formulation, Pharmacovigilance, Patient and Parents Involvement in Clinical Trial, Biomarkers, and Innovative Tool in Pediatric Clinical Drug Development. And now I pass the floor to Becca for the last part of the presentation. Thank you very much.
So as well as the fundamental training that Francesca described in the GCP and the option to do a much more advanced course, we also wanted to develop lots of different courses, shorter courses that could really whet the appetite for investigators who are undertaking paediatric clinical trials and really maybe learn more about the breadth of knowledge that is required. So we have courses around paediatric investigational plans that are really aimed at our expert groups in c4c. We have a few courses on the tricky topics of biostatistics and different clinical trial methodologies and clinical trial designs. We have short courses on developmental pharmacology, which is similar to the advanced course, but don't require people doing the 8 months. They pick up the basics that are in that course. And then we have some courses that are really focused on the specific issues of delivering clinical trials in certain populations of pediatrics, for example, neonates and also adolescents. But we have quite a few courses listed here that I think are of relevance to the rare disease field. For example, gene therapy readiness, remote clinical trials, challenges and opportunities of using registries, and innovative trial design. And I'm going to pick a couple of those courses and just expand on those a little bit more detail in a moment. So one of the courses that we're particularly proud of is our innovative trial design course. And this course is delivered completely online through lectures, and it looks at an introduction to the various different types of innovative trial design that are out there. And it's really thinking about those small populations that we have, both in paediatrics and in rare diseases, and thinking about how we can better power and improve the efficiency of clinical trials. So this is completely delivered online, which is really accessible for people. And we have quite a wide target audience, from study investigators right through to healthcare professionals that are really interested in learning about this topic. The other course that we thought would be of interest is our gene therapy course. And this isn't really a course about what gene therapy is. It's more a course about how do you become ready as a site or a network to deliver gene therapy trials. So it's about institutional readiness. And it gives an overview of the key features of gene therapy clinical trials and what makes them different from other studies, and really gives tips and tricks on how to set up these trials, and takes people through an institutional readiness evaluation that they can do at their own site. Again, this is a fully online course. It's got different methodologies like videos and interviews with principal investigators, but it can be done at people's own time as well. So it's another great, easy to access course. We then have our course on remote clinical trials, and this is for this course we wanted to try a slightly different methodology because we felt that this course requires a high level of interaction between the teachers and the learners. So this was our first fully live broadcast course in C4C, and it looked about the issues of delivering remote clinical trials, particularly relating to children and young people. So the ethical issues, the patient perspective and so on, but also some of the innovative ways that assessments can be done remotely. And the other course where we had a lot of involvement from our ERN colleagues was the Registries in Paediatric Drug Development Opportunities and Challenges course. And this was an interesting model because it was a hybrid course. So people were allowed to do the lectures online, short lectures of around 20 minutes in their own time, that looked at what clinical registries are, what registers are, the different types of registry data that are available, the issues in using that data, and some case studies on how it's been used in studies in the real world. And we then all the lecturers and the students came together for a 1-hour webinar to do question and answers, which really allowed us to deep dive into the topics to do that discussion. So it's a really good methodology, I think, for doing these kind of online courses, because it meets different learning styles. And then the other course that is really important for us to flag up, I think, is the course that was being designed by our PPI experts, which is about how to better involve children, young patients and their families in the design of clinical research. So we're really wanting to think about how children and young people can be involved in the design, the methodology and the impact of measuring impacts of clinical trials. So as Francesca mentioned in her first slide, another great resource that we'd really encourage everyone who listens to this webinar to have a look at is our external training course catalogue. So this allows beneficiaries within C4C and other people in the wider rare disease field to find out what kind of training is available outside of C4C. It also is an opportunity for you as ERNs to advertise the training that you have. As long as it's relevant to paediatric drug development, we're happy to advertise that training, and it gives you an opportunity to reach a wider audience than just inside of your ERN, because we can send this to all of our many sites and networks that Mark spoke about. If you're interested in recommending a course or finding out more what's already available on the catalogue, please just use the QR code and recommend any training using the email address that's there. So I'd like to thank you very much for your attention, and you can see here there's a web link as well if you want to find out more information about the Academy and what we're doing. And also watch this space, because we're now planning a publication that should be available in the next year or so about how we delivered all of this work. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chloe, Francesca, and Becca, for going through the slides and explaining what C4C does. Well, we're going to have time for questions and discussion, but while people are thinking about that, I'd like to thank Mari and Margarita and Giacomo for helping us put on this webinar. It's been a long discussion, and it's been good to put the webinar together. We've got another webinar coming on other C4C services. That'll be on the 11th of May. So we'll be in touch, but keep that date in your diary to learn about expert advice, patient public involvement, and data standards in pediatrics. But today we're focusing on the trial services and education and training. So we'll just give a next chance for some more questions. But in the meantime, we can comment on Mari's question. If the site is a member of an ERN, is it already attractive enough for sponsors? Or do we have advice how to make ERN sites even more attractive as possible trial sites for rare disease trials? So I'll take this in two parts. Firstly, what makes a site attractive? And then how do we suggest that sites become even more attractive? So I think there are several characteristics that help make a site attractive. The first one is having people who can be enrolled to studies, people with lived experience of disease or patients. And then there's expertise in clinical trials. And that's really about the capability of doing trials. And that's different from expertise in a disease area. They're not looking for people with 500 papers about your disease. They're looking for people who can recruit participants, keep them in the trial, do all the measurements, and submit the data that is needed. So it's not about just expertise in the disease, it's about capability of doing the trials. So we've got patients, capability. Then there's a particular way of collaborating with any sponsor, academic or industry, about knowing what they want and making sure you've got the time and the staff to deliver what they need. And another part of this is speed, that everything needs to happen yesterday because time, money is ticking. And it's the same for publicly funded trials as it is for industry. And then importantly, there's a lot to do with quality, gathering the right data at the right time and making sure it's recorded in the way that needs to be. So to be attractive to industry or to a public funding trial, you need to have the participants, you need to have capability, you need to be able to collaborate in a useful way, work quickly, and achieve the quality that's needed. So I don't know whether all the ERNs focus on all those aspects of site capability. My understanding is that they don't. ERNs at the moment are focused on clinical care and a bit of research. And most of that research is observational registry based, which is just as important as any other type of research. But clinical trial readiness, clinical trial preparedness needs to operate at every site. And some sites are members of multiple ERNs. So each site could get ready with each ERN, or we could take a combined approach and get each site ready as a site, ready to work with multiple ERNs, ready to work with multiple academic or industry trials. And so our approach in C4C is to work with all the sites to help them develop those capabilities, the participants, the trial-related expertise, collaboration, speed, and quality. And what we're ready to do is work with ERNs individually or together to help sites in this development. And I know that some ERNs work in different ways from others, so we're ready to adapt to all the different ways of working. But for example, things like having the participants available, I think registries are very good, and there are many ERNs who are developing the registries. The EJPRD has done great work on that, and ERDA is going to continue that. So availability is something ERNs are developing. The capability to do clinical trials, though, is something that Francesca and Becca have highlighted, that there are ways to do that. that c4c can help with through the courses and through the support of the national hubs that Chloe mentioned. That's why we've set them up, so they can work with sites to overcome the challenges that sites have. That includes helping people understand what industry and academic sponsors need. So the collaborative skills, how to be ready for a trial, how to be ready for inspections and audit, as Becca has said, that is part of what c4c is ready to do for all sites. Hopefully that saves the ERNs the trouble. And one approach from c4c will cover all paediatric sites, and each ERN does not need to reinvent that wheel. Speed, we have very tight timelines because that's what industry value. And so Chloe's mentioned that we have all these agreements in place already, so the sites know what we're going to ask them, so they can sign the CDA within a matter of days rather than the weeks and months it normally takes. And when we work with experts, they've also signed their agreements in advance. So it's very quick to bring experts together. And also we allow money to follow that work. So I understand that ERNs find it very difficult to get paid because they're not legal entities. So we are a legal entity, and we can receive money and pass it on to sites and to experts so that people are being paid for the work that they're doing to deliver the clinical trials. And then the quality, we need to recognize what industry and academic sponsors need, and that's often driven by what the regulators need. So we need to make sure that we have a shared understanding of regulatory needs, of industry needs, and deliver that to ERNs. And that's going to be the same for metabolic bone disease as it is for muscular dystrophy, or the same for rare forms of epilepsy as it is for rare forms of arthritis. Those trial readiness aspects we can support sites with and ERNs with across the topics that we've mentioned. So I'll pause there. Any comments or questions that people can put into the questions tab?
Mark, I think there's a question in the chat.
Oh, in the chat. Okay, thank you.
I can maybe respond to that question from a little bit of information, Mark. Yep. So about the ACT-EU initiative specifically, I'm sure you can answer the other question about regulators. So I attended the recent ACT-EU workshop, and we've proposed 2 paediatric case studies in that workshop, post-workshop activity where you had to submit them. So yes, we are collaborating with ACT-EU. Yeah, so and the same as regulators, that in paediatrics we have the European Network for Paediatric Research, the European Medicines Agency, and PRIMA, which brings all the paediatric groups together, and that also allows us to be enthusiastic contributors to the ACT-EU. In terms of direct relationships with regulators, it's a little bit complicated because we're not providing services on behalf of the EMA. The EMA has a very careful way of looking after its experts to avoid conflicts of interest, which is great, and that works very well. We're on the other side working with industry to make sure industry is well advised, and so there are some conversations that we can't have. Francesca may want to comment, as given her role in the regulatory landscape. Francesca, in paediatrics, we have the Paediatric Committee at the European Medicines Agency, which takes part in the centralized procedures for approving medicines in children through developing the Paediatric Investigation Plans, the PIPs. c4c can't talk directly to PEDCO because of that conflict of interest issue I mentioned, but I know that PEDCO has heard about c4c several times and is aware of what c4c is doing, so it knows what it means when a company says, we have spoken to c4c, or we're going to use c4c sites. Francesca, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, definitely, Mark. Yes, the Pediatric Committee and the MEA is pretty aware of what c4c is doing, is pretty aware about the collaboration between c4c and the pharma companies. And one of the things that I see as a real added value is that if the company, I mean, this is not an obligation, but if the company will ask C4C a kind of an advice to how to develop their product or how to design the trial, and then go to EMEA, submitting the proposal, the process could be streamlined even more than as it is right now. So I think that C4C has access to a great number of experts, and this is one of another added value of the network. So definitely working together with the regulator can, let's say, can bring in a faster way the medicine for the pediatric population available sooner, I would say. So definitely, yes, this is something that the regulators know very well. And I think that also here there is we are trying, to put all the pieces together also with the ACT-EU initiative, but as Mark said, sometimes it's not so, let's say, so linear, the process, but everything is aligned, I would say.
Thank you. Thanks, Roseanne. Other questions and comments? So while people are thinking or typing, I wonder, Chloe, if you could just say a few more words about the confidentiality disclosure agreement cascade, the CDA cascade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have a CDA cascade in place. Why we need it is so that we're able to share information from the sponsors with national hubs, and they can share it with sites. So we need to make sure that we have a c4c CDA in place so that we're able to share that information, and national hubs can talk to sites about trials. So this is a process that we developed under the project, and we've implemented. It's been very successful. It's very efficient. We have a 3-step cascade. So the first step in the cascade is between C4C and the sponsor. We usually sign that within 1 working day. The second step in the cascade is between C4C and the national hub, and we allow 3 working days for that to be completed. And then in the third step of the cascade is between the national hub and the site, and we usually turn that around within 5 working days. So very efficient, quick process that sponsors really highly value. They only need to sign 1 CDA with us as C4C, and then we can then cascade the CDA out to national hubs and sites.
Thank you. So that means that a feasibility request can get started within a matter of days rather than the months it usually takes. And we've developed this with industry. My suggestion is that ERNs do not need to develop that again. Each ERN does not need its own confidentiality disclosure cascade. We can work together to speed up the availability and access of sites to industry trials. Now, Roseanne's put in another helpful question about enrolling in the short courses and the need for an enrollment key. Francesca, I wonder if you could comment on that.
Yes, definitely. So at the moment, we have created, since we are still, let's say, acting in the framework of the IMI project, we have created the C4C courses with the access for the, let's say, C4C beneficiary and the C4C clinical sites. So that's why you are not that's why an enrollment key is requested. But maybe you are belonging to a C4C site and you don't know, so the access can be easy. I don't know, Mark, if you want to say something in relation to that, or
as Francesca says, up until now and for the next year or so, we're working under the terms of a grant, an IHI grant that set things up, and so we had to be able to justify the resources from that. As we move into the new world, then we'll find different ways of working. But I think it's always going to be important to link up with people who are somehow associated with with the network, with the sticking, either through sites or through the national hub, or through ERNs that we're working with. But we're very keen to have a good relationship with the people that we're working with, and so we, at the moment, don't have open access to the education materials because we want to build a relationship rather than just have something that gets thrown into the air and there's no ongoing relationship. So it's for those reasons that we have the enrollment key, and contact the national hub, contact the site, and I'm sure we can help. Any other thoughts and questions? I'll say while people are thinking and typing, maybe I was going to ask Francesca or Becca about, could you say a bit more about the advanced course and the benefits to the people who do the advanced course?
Sure. So as we briefly described before, and maybe Becca can add something on that, we have developed this advanced course that is quite, let's say, big in terms of topics that we have addressed. And the idea of this course is to provide a higher level of education for those people who are working in pediatric drug development and pediatric clinical trials. Now we are in the phase of revising the advanced course, and we are considering to add a module specifically dedicated to rare diseases and orphan drug. So this could be very useful also for, let's say, people dealing with this type of in this field. The course at the moment does not provide, let's say, an academic title, because within the framework of the project, this was pretty difficult to achieve, but we are working for the future also to make it maybe also something that the academia will recognize. Yes, all the participants, we had 3 editions of this course, this advanced course, open to 50 participants from the c4c, from the academic partner and from the pharma partner. Most of them found this course really useful for their work, and the feedback that we have received was extremely enthusiastic by their side. So we are pretty proud about that, and we are looking forward to have a new edition of this course and to enlarge the, let's say, the stage of the participant as much as possible. I don't know, Becca, if you would like to add anything.
The only thing to add was something I observed was that people who had done the course previously almost created a network of people who'd done the course, and maybe some of them, I think, volunteered to support the next course as well. So I think it's more than just learning, it's also creating a network of people in C4C that have done the course and can continue to learn together.
Thank you very much. Well, we're coming to the end of our time, so thank you to all the speakers and to the contributors, the audience, and particularly people asking questions. Please get in touch. I've put the email address into the chat, and this webinar will be available on the website, so please pass it on to colleagues who may be interested and have discussions within ERNs about the best ways of working together. We've got another webinar that will be broadcast on May the 11th that will talk about expert advice working with children and young people to design clinical trials and paediatric data standards. So we look forward to seeing you then, and we look forward to the further discussion. So thank you very much to everybody in Erica, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.